Welcome back to the Datarekha audio guide. I'm Diya.
And I'm Arjun. Today, the most common shape in all of production AI agents. One agent, a handful of tools, and the slightly uncomfortable truth that the model doesn't always pick the right one.
Start at the floor. In Google's ADK, what does a tool even have to be?
Almost nothing. A plain Python function with type hints and a docstring is a valid tool. You write the function, you drop it into the agent's tools list, and ADK does the rest. It reads the function, builds a schema, runs the call loop, even runs tools in parallel. No special tool class, no registration ritual.
So what is ADK actually doing behind that when I hand it a function?
Three things. First, schema generation. It introspects your function's signature and docstring and builds what Gemini needs to understand it. Second, the tool call loop. When the model says, call lookup_weather with Tokyo, ADK finds that function by name, runs it, and feeds the result back in the next turn. Third, and this one saves you real pain, argument coercion. If the model hands back the string 3 for an integer parameter, ADK converts it. And if it genuinely can't, it surfaces the error back to the model, so it can retry with valid arguments.
Okay, now the part you flagged, I give one agent 3 tools. A weather lookup, a news fetcher, a tip calculator. How does it decide which to call?
Of 3 signals. And here's the thing, it does not always get it right. So these are your levers. Signal 1, the tool name. Lookup_weather is legible. lcup_WTHR_V2 is a riddle. Name them like public APIs. Signal 2, and this is the big one, the docstring. That's literally the description Gemini reads. Be specific about when to call and when not to. Use this for current weather, do not use for forecasts. Signal 3, the agent's own instruction, a nudge in the system prompt like for weather. Always call lookup_weather.
So the model is basically reading the labels on the jars, not tasting what's inside. The name and the docstring are the label.
That's a perfect way to hold it. It never sees your function body. It only sees the label. So a vague label gets you a wrong reach into the wrong jar. The single highest leverage thing you can do for tool accuracy isn't clever code. It's writing a clearer docstring. That instruction in the system prompt mostly matters to close the gap when the model is tempted to just answer from its training data instead of calling the tool at all.
Is there a point where more tools starts hurting, where the labels blur together?
There is, and there's a rule of thumb for it. Roughly 5 to 15 tools is the sweet spot for one agent. Past that, selection accuracy starts to drop. Too many similar jars on the shelf. If you find yourself with 30 tools, the answer isn't to cram them all onto one agent. It's to route to specialist subagents, each with its own small, focused set. That's a whole separate pattern.
Let me jump to something you mentioned. Parallel execution. If I ask whether in Tokyo and Lagos plus 3 AI headlines, what happens?
Gemini supports parallel function calls. It can request several tools in a single turn, and ADK just runs them concurrently. You write zero special code. It's the default. And the payoff is latency. 3 tools running in parallel come back in roughly the time of the slowest one, not the sum of all 3. For an agent with chatty tools, API calls that each take to 500 milliseconds. That can cut walk log time by 2 to 3 times.
That's a real win for free. Now you said ADK ships some tools built in. Which ones?
To that you'd otherwise have to build yourself. One is Google Search grounding. Gemini calls Google Search directly, pulls fresh results, and grounds its answer in them. You enable it just by listing Google_search in the tools. The other is code execution. Gemini writes and runs Python in a sandbox. Great for math, data crunching, plots. Same move. You list it and it's on.
Free fresh search and a code sandbox sounds like all upside. Where's the catch?
The catch is control. The search tool hits Google's public index, not your internal docs. The code runs in Google's sandbox, not your VPC. So the moment you need internal RAG over your own knowledge base or compute that has to stay inside your network, you're back to writing custom tools. Convenience versus control. That's the whole trade. There's even a wrinkle. Depending on the Gemini variant, you sometimes can't mix the built-in code execution with your own arbitrary function tools in the same agent. Google's constrained that for sandbox safety at times. Check the current compatibility matrix before you assume it composes.
One more, the case where the agent calls tool A, looks at the answer, then decides to call tool B. Do I have to orchestrate that?
You don't, and that's the quiet beauty of it. The runner's loop just keeps going. Model calls a tool, sees the result, reasons, maybe calls another, until it emits a final response, or you hit an iteration cap. The model does the reasoning about what to do next. You write none of the orchestration. And here's the punchline most people miss. Just an agent with tools, looping, is what most production agents are, and nothing more. People imagine elaborate multi-agent machinery. The workhorse is one agent reaching for the right tool.
So the one sentence to walk away with?
The model picks tools by reading labels, names and doc strings. So the cheapest way to make your agent smarter is to write clearer labels and keep the shelf between 5 and 15 jars.
Love it. That's the Datarekha audio guide. See you in the next one.